Hello everyone and welcome to Sunday Night Bilgecast, I guess. I'm Ollie Johnson. With me as always is my partner in crime, Sam Congrave. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing super.
Excellent. Ian is
I,
not with us tonight, but hopefully it'll still be good. Right, so...
it's not to have our third tag team partner. We're kind of like the White New Day. Only one of us is crippled, two of us are in England, and one of us is in another country altogether.
I would have
Also, none
gone
of us
with
are
the
wrestlers.
Fabulous Freebirds, but uh,
Well,
you wouldn't have had
well,
to
neither of
bring
us are.
race into it, but okay.
Michael Hayes, yeah.
Oh yeah, good point. uh,
Terry Gordy's homophobia.
yeah. Well, like, let's just all be versions of Gold Dust then. Like,
Fine. Glam Dust, unfortunately, isn't with us, but there's Old Dust, and of course.
what was
Yes.
it you were telling me about Gold Dust earlier?
Oh, God. Well, okay. So basically, it's a tale as old as time. Second generation wrestler comes into the business, and everyone treats him just as his Dusty Rhodes son.
Yeah.
Then suddenly he gets a job with WWE,
Right.
and then they ask him to play an androgynous Oscar, basically. He agrees to this, and then suddenly reads what he looks up in the dictionary what androgynous actually
Oh, you mean he
means.
didn't know?
He didn't know, and he actually said, "What have I got myself into?" And to begin with, he didn't really do much except beat up Just Incredible. But then, of course, Razor Ramon got involved, and then because what he'd do, his gimmick was he would just stand there, all dressed in gold, quoting movies. So he'd sit there and say, "I don't like the sand. It's coarse. It's rough.
Did he
Attack of the
did he
Clones."
actually quote Attack of the Clones?
No, Zane Dust did, but
Uh-huh.
you know, but he'd do stuff like that. He would quote movies, but then he, of course, wrestled Razor Ramon. But he started doing weird things like sending him presents, getting a tattoo of Razor in a heart on his chest, or molesting him during matches.
Oh God.
To the point, to the point where Razor allegedly, and this is all alleged, refused to work with him, and they were scheduled to have a match at WrestleMania 12, but Razor failed a drug test and was on his way to WCW, so he wrestled Roddy Piper, who was meant to be wrestling O.J. Simpson. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking about any of that.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Roddy Piper was originally scheduled to wrestle O.J. Simpson.
I see.
I'm not joking. However, they used movie footage and everything. If you watch WrestleMania 12, you might notice they're chasing him in a white Bronco. Well, he's chasing Goldust in a white Bronco, and they used news footage of the white Bronco from the police chase news report of O.J. Simpson driving away from the police.
Oh, good lord.
I've got nothing. I'll link you to the Goldust in WWE video at one point, but then, of course, the overt sexual parts of his character actually left when Glad got involved.
Right.
And he open mouth kissed Ahmed Johnson, and Ahmed Johnson beat the crap out of him. And to quote Brian Zane here, we think that Ahmed Johnson beat the gay out of him, because after that he was not. Jerry Lawler asked him if he was, the Q word. Goldust said no and introduced his wife and child. So yeah,
Right.
that's why Goldust isn't the way he is anymore.
Well, there are better gimmicks you can have than Gay Panic.
Well, again, he was Gay Panic, as you know. That's what Goldust was. But eventually, after Glad got involved, actual gay rights groups got involved. Goldust's overt sexual behavior got toned down dramatically, considering all the stuff. Although it did make a comeback with the artist formerly known as Goldust, but that was okay because it was BDSM. I think that's
It was
okay,
most awkward for everyone watching, but yeah. Um,
especially when he was a blackface pimp.
Wrestling!
Which he did again with Gold with Booker T at one point where he said that Shawn Michael said to Booker T that Shawn Michael doesn't like our kind
Oh God. Oh
while
God.
having an Afro. Oh, God. Yes, yes. Goldust did these things.
Oh no.
I love Dustin. I really do love Dustin, especially when you
How
consider
great
that
is he these days? Like
when
at his age, the matches he's having in AEW, or at least that one that he had
the
with
thing
Cody.
is, remind you that what he did have a very dark time in his life. He wasn't in the best frame of mind when he agreed to a lot of things he did, such as the artist formerly known as Goldust. He was in a real life issue with his dad for a long time. He had an alcohol and drug problem, which followed him all the way to TNA, where he was Black Rain.
Yeah,
We don't like
I
to talk
remember
Black
that.
Rain. And then, of course, his life got turned around and everything when he came back. And since he went to AEW, he's been tearing the house down with, brother Cody.
Yeah, I mean that match they had was a barn burner, if you'll forgive the cliche.
To quote Jane, it was a match that moved people to cheering and tears because it was that emotional. And when you can say, I was emotional to watch Cody Rhodes versus Goldust, effectively,
Yeah, I mean,
it's something amazing.
yeah, edge of my seat that entire match.
I know. I watched the. It's showing that an Attitude Era style match with the wrestling ability that they have these days. It showed Goldust had a lot going for him that he could still give back to the community.
I don't think I've ever seen him have a match that good, like before.
Nor have I honestly have to agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay, so we've spent the first 5 minutes of the podcast waxing nostalgic about Goldust.
Well, look, Goldust was a pivotal part of the Attitude Era. It's weird not to talk about him when you consider Austin and The Rock get so much more clout than he ever did.
Yeah, and you can see why they do, but you can't really forget.
Goldust pushed what they were just coming out of the cartoon era. Goldust pushed what was okay and what wasn't okay.
Yeah.
He could say,
Sorry, Sam, repeat that.
but I don't think he could have. What he did to begin with could have worked today.
No, I don't think so either.
But I just wanted to, considering what we're going to talk about, I just wanted to have something talk about something positive because everything's going about to go downhill very quickly.
Well, until we get to AEW, which I have saved for last on the notes.
Yeah, when that's happening.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, last Monday night, Raw began happening to us, and let's see where are my notes. What?
Nothing. It's happening to us as if we're being funny.
I can't actually I watched Raw on the Tuesday after. Well, on the Tuesday morning. Well, early Tuesday afternoon. I rarely get up in the hours of the morning these days, to be honest with you. And Word is not responding. Hold on, there we go. Oh yeah, Draft Part 2, Monday Night Raw. Okay.
Wow.
So, we kick things off right away with Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair, which is always a good match.
Subtlety, thy name is not.
Yeah. Apparently, it comes out that Sasha Banks is injured.
Tell me, is she going to do the Goldust thing where she's injured and she's going to claim she's a quadriplegic due to her arm being hurt?
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But Charlotte says she just wants to be friends with Becky immediately before slugging her in the face, and the match starts. It's consistent with the expectations you'd have of the horsewomen. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good match, and Becky wins via roll-up.
Wow.
Seth Rollins interview.
Seth Becomings.
Yeah. Seth interviewings is rolled backstage. He implies that the Fiend will ignore draft constraints and that he's going Fiend hunting.
Oh, you know what? Seth Rollins is one of the most despised people at this point.
Yeah, and after what he did at the end of the show, which we will get to, that ain't gonna change anytime soon.
That guy is a heel no matter what
Yeah,
now.
he's a heel in all but role, really. He's a heel in every sense except the sense that he's being presented as one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing is that the Fiend is one of those weird kind of heels where we know he's a bad guy, but we love him.
Yeah, it's like The Undertaker back in the day. And I know that there's going to be a lot of comparisons,
Actually,
but...
Kind of like Kurt Angle once said that he could do what he wanted and those idiots will continue to cheer him. I don't know if you ever saw the interview where he said that he wanted
I saw that interview.
Of people, how he liked France and how he would like to go back in time and basically make Jesus tap out.
All right, so, and after that we get a recap of the draft part 1 from SmackDown, and round 1 of the draft, Seth Rollins to Raw, Brock Lesnar to SmackDown.
Yeah, the draft is predictable as all hell.
Yeah. Well, can we not just assume that everyone that's already on a show is still on it? and you know, only move people rather than just start again? It feels like a huge waste of draft picks. Yeah.
It is.
Although, here is one move, Charlotte Flair to Raw.
Yeah.
And the New Day are staying on SmackDown. Andrade and Zelina Vega to Raw. And to kick things off after that, Andrade versus Ali. And Zelina Vega gets involved and gives Ali a Hurricane Rana, which I seem to remember her doing to people before. This isn't...
You got to remember that she was, I think she was certain someone in, I think she was Alicia Flash in TNA.
Yeah.
She's also married to Aleister Black, which is a really weird thing when you've watched NXT for as long as I have.
I haven't been watching lately. I can't...
When he was on NXT, she Hurricane Rana'd him a couple of times in the ring, and I'm sure he liked it.
I can't really keep up with all the wrestling. There's so much of it.
I know there is a lot, especially with NXT going to 2 hours, NXT UK.
Yeah, and AEW now, which I'm not gonna miss.
AEW is just worth it at this point. I did see a bit of AEW Dark, by the way.
Any good?
Very good. They had a very good match between Kenny Omega and Joey Janela.
Oh, wow.
Which was but the match didn't count towards their win-loss record, and there was this one bit which had Cody Rhodes allow some kid dressed up like Orange Cassidy to pin him, while MJF is going, "No, referee, don't count this, don't count it." And then he counted it, so he chased off the referee, and then the Young Bucks asked, "Is this kid? Does this count towards your win-loss record?" And then Cody Rhodes went, "Get that kid a plane ticket because he's going on to wrestle Chris Jericho." I don't know if you've ever seen Orange Cassidy, but he's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I have noticed that AEW have started putting their win-loss record under their nameplates, and that's a nice touch. I like that.
Wins and losses apparently mean something now.
Well, that's what they say, but it's been too short a time for us to really tell yet. But that is the plan we are given to understand, and I'm interested to see what becomes of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back to WWE.
Dread.
With juice.
With dread in his heart and hatred in his eyes.
With due sense of exhaustion. Andrade wins via hammerlock DDT. Decent match. I like both people involved, Andrade and Ali. I like them.
I like them, and I want to hang out with them more and buy them sweets.
Draft round 2. Kabuki Warriors to Raw. I cannot say that name without cringing slightly. Ugh.
But
It's a dumb name. I know what Kabuki Theatre is, and it's... Daniel Bryan staying on SmackDown, Rusev to Raw, Bayley to SmackDown, Aleister Black to Raw, which is cool. Yeah, no comment yet, okay. Alright, and the next match we have, the Viking Raiders versus Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler for the Raw Tag Team titles. Oh, and the Raiders mentioned the other companies they've held tag titles in before. So, winners and new tag team champions, the Viking Raiders. See,
You
I've
know,
got used to the Viking Raiders. I cannot get used to the Kabuki Warriors.
the Kabuki Warriors is stupid. That's why. The Viking
I'm
Raiders.
sorry to keep harping on this, but it bothers me. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. Sam, you still there?
I'm still here. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, so Viking Raiders are tag champs now. All good. Was a good match too. I liked it. I don't really remember. I remember liking it. I don't really remember the ins and outs, and I didn't write them down. I want to watch the show, not just be taking notes all the way through. But then I do also have to take notes. Right, round 3 of the draft. Cedric Alexander to Raw. Shinsuke Nakamura to SmackDown. Umberto Carrillo to Raw. I don't really know who that is.
I don't know who that is either. I think he's on 205 Live.
I wish I'd watched more of 205 Live, because I'm given to understand it's really good. But there's so much wrestling that I never feel like I'm in the mood for more of it.
I know there is too much to catch up on.
Yeah. Add Eric Rowan to Raw. Eric Young versus Aleister Black. The notes I like. Aleister Black via what he's calling the Dark Ritual submission hold. And Aleister Black looked like an absolute beast in that match. That they booked him really strong, possibly at the expense of Eric Young, but
Eric Young has lost ever since Sanity kind of went off.
Yeah. And then we get round 4 of the draft. Buddy Murphy to Raw. Rude and Ziggler to SmackDown. Jinder Mahal to Raw, although for the life of me I can't imagine why. Carmella to SmackDown.
Jinder my balls.
Yeah. And R-Truth to Raw, so R-Truth and Carmella are on separate shows now.
Good.
Backstage segment with the Street Profits, who as we know are on Raw now, and the OC beat them up, so they might actually be wrestling soon. Yeah. Ricochet versus Shelton Benjamin. Winner Ricochet, no surprise there. And the Braun Strowman and Tyson Fury contract signing, wherein Tyson Fury breaks a pen.
Tries to break a pen. He did take quite a while.
I could have broke it quicker than that. That's not impressive.
Oh, Lacey Evans apparently got owned by The Rock.
Go on.
Apparently, the Lacey Evans removed a picture of the Rock or something, and said, "Smell that, you nasty," because apparently, "you nasty" is the worst thing you can ever say to someone. But Lacey Evans was backstage. She tweeted the following photo of The Rock being replaced by herself. She also called The Rock a nasty. The Rock responded with, "Look, Tracy, Stacey, whatever, if you're going to picture hack me, at least get an image of your badass self covering my entire body and not leave my chest meal, enhanced midriff exposed. You're welcome." She's from the 1950s. She doesn't know any better.
Right. Okay. So what happened after that?
Ali is apparently going to donate his WWE Crown Jewel pay to charity.
Well, that's good.
And CM Punk says he'd like to work with Batista because he knows how big his penis is.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah.
Draft round 5. Samoa Joe to Raw, who's injured at the moment, so that was a nice surprise.
Yeah, imagine getting a message like that. You're being drafted to Raw. Oh, bully.
Oh, he was on the panel of experts. So, they were there to get his comments on it, but I can't remember what they were. The Miz to SmackDown. Akira Tozawa to Raw. That's cool. Excuse me. Baron Corbin to SmackDown.
Who cares?
Shelton Benjamin to Raw. The next match on the card is Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander. I like Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy's pretty good.
I like Buddy Murphy. I just hate the fact that he pretends that he invented every move that he did.
Well, anyway, but
basically, he stole all of his moves. All of his moves, or most of his big moves, are just stolen from New Japan.
Well, it's
like he stole
probably
most of his
not his decision to pretend he invented them.
Well, I know, because he said it, and then someone said, no, they invented them years before. You can't just say, oh, I invented those things years ago. I just never used them.
Yeah.
Because he uses Kenny Omega's, V-trigger.
Yeah, the knee to the face. Yeah. Buddy Murphy via Murphy's Law. Good match.
Yeah.
Draft round 6. Rey Mysterio to Raw. Chad Gable to SmackDown.
Shorty G.
Chad Gable to SmackDown.
Shorty G to SmackDown.
Oh my god.
I warned you of all this shit was going to happen.
I know.
They called me mad. Who called you mad?
Titus O'Neil to Raw.
Titus.
Elias to SmackDown, and the final draft pick, Liv Morgan to Raw. So, Cesaro doesn't get a draft pick, but Titus O'Neil, Shelton Benjamin, and Jinder Mahal do.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. Like, I mean, even if it's not even about their ability, it's about how heavily the programs tend to feature them. You know.
Cesaro's been in a weird place for a while. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. I mean, again, at one point his entire gimmick at one point was he was an evil Swiss banker.
Oh yeah.
I don't have a word.
He came in as, I believe, Oksana's friend Antonio.
Yes, when he was called Antonio Cesaro.
Yeah.
I remember first seeing him at a Ring of Honor show like years ago.
Yeah.
When he still had long black hair, and was called Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah.
Then he teamed with Cassius Ohno to become the Kings of Wrestling.
Yes, I remember.
Those were the days.
Yeah. So, round 6 was Rey Mysterio to Raw, Chad Gable to SmackDown, Titus O'Neil to Raw, Elias to SmackDown, Liv Morgan to Raw. Tag match, the Kabuki Warriors versus Natalya and Lacey Evans. I don't think I'm ever going to get over that name. The Kabuki Warriors win via roll-up by Asuka on Lacey Evans. And I think did she use the mist at some point? She uses the mist now.
Ugh. I know, I hate it.
I don't mind it.
It was okay when Muta and Tajiri did it.
Yeah. And the main event segment is Firefly Funhouse, where Seth attacks, Bray begs for mercy, and Seth sets fire to the set, which was clearly coated in something flammable because it went up like that.
And they killed Rambling Rabbit again.
Yeah, they killed Rambling Rabbit, the bastards.
Yeah, Rambling Rabbit was awesome.
Yeah. And it's like... Yeah, I mean, if Seth wasn't hated before, he is now. Because he burned down...
They've made a point where now everyone's Twitter is controlled at this point. Matt Riddle's already been confirmed that his is controlled, but he said that he thinks that all Seth Rollins ever does is just try to desperately get attention. I can't deny that.
Right.
I think a lot of what
because
Seth
their Twitters are controlled, I don't really care what they're saying on Twitter, to be honest.
Well, Seth Rollins did have control of his Twitter. It's just when he did, he made an ass of himself and he's deleted it. Apparently getting owned by Will Ospreay didn't help him.
Right. Huh. So, SmackDown then. Let's get through this.
Well, there's NXT first. Do you want me to quickly go through that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, continuing the women's division thing, well, the women's division's, well, constant threats at this point. Rhea Ripley challenged Io Shirai. That'll be an interesting thing to see. Keith Lee wrestles Dominic Dijakovic. I can't pronounce his name. Matt Riddle and Bronson Reed. A lot of the matches are just there for the sake of it at this point. Finn Balor has a few promos. He's getting new tattoos every so often as well. Killian Dane murdered Boa and now suddenly wants to murder Pete Dunne, apparently. Pete Dunne is now in a feud anyway with a guy called Damian Priest. Honestly, not much happened this week on NXT, to be perfectly honest, because the Undisputed Era weren't there. So, and the stories all kind of rest around them. So all the matches were just thrown together.
I see.
That's the annoying thing. Other than that,
don't they have all NXT, the titles right now?
Yeah, they do.
Cool.
Although all the the NXT UK championships are all in interesting places, by the way.
Right.
Now, every single NXT UK title has changed hands the same amount of times. Just a weird fact for you.
Ah, that is weird.
The NXT World Championship has been held by Tyler Bate, lost to Pete Dunne, then lost to Walter. The NXT Tag Team Championships were won by the Grizzled Young Veterans, who lost them to the Mod Father and Mark Andrews, who recently just lost them to Gallus. And the NXT Women's Championship was held by Rhea Ripley, then Toni Storm, and then to Kaylee fucking Ray.
Yeah.
Two of those champions are Scottish, by the way. And that makes me happy.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah, that's NXT out of the way. Honestly, it wasn't worthy of even having ratings this week. It didn't have much to compete with, well, AEW, as you well know.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, Right, so Smackdown starts off with Roman Reigns versus Shinsuke Nakamura. The match is interrupted by Baron Corbin, and Daniel Bryan makes the save for some reason. So there's a tag match set up later in the night. Oh, and Sami Zayn grabs Daniel Bryan and holds his leg down for a long time so that Shinsuke can lay him out.
Not that it helped after all, you know.
Yeah.
In the tag match, Daniel Bryan got the win.
Yep.
It was the battle of the knees. Yeah? Hold on. It's pretty fucking warm. What? Oh. Sorry, Ollie.
Nah, brother. We followed up with a New Day segment with Heavy Machinery, and Otis is being very messy with a bowl of protein. Chad Gable versus Curtis Axel. Chad Gable wins quickly via submission.
I noticed how you're putting the emphasis on Chad Gable.
And then Chad Gable gives a speech about self-acceptance before dubbing himself Chad Gable and nothing else. He calls himself
Ollie.
Shorty G. It's dumb.
I know it's dumb.
Yeah. The New Day and Heavy Machinery versus Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode and The Revival. The New Day win. I was barely paying attention at that point, to be honest.
Yeah, the New Heavy Machinery win the whole thing.
You know, I like everyone involved in this match, but for some reason I just wasn't, like, maybe I just wasn't in the mood for wrestling at the time, but I wasn't really paying attention.
Maybe it's because SmackDown's product is, you know, it should be pointed out Eric Bischoff is no longer writing for it.
Oh yeah, he lasted about 3 months.
Well, I've got coffee stains on my table that have lasted longer than him. The thing is, I told you he'd be ineffectual. I told you him and Paul Heyman would add nothing to the product or would clash with Vince McMahon.
Because ultimately, it's like the well, I don't know how to say this. If what
It has to go through Vince.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Although, from what I've heard, Eric Bischoff was really invested in this. He even moved out his family and everything out to Connecticut.
Right.
And now he's been let go. And I don't know the reasoning. The rumor is that he clashed too many times with Vince, or Vince just always intended to fire him, like give him one last little bit of hope and then fuck him over.
Both of those seem in character.
Either one sounds in character, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you believe the stories, then everything is written for an audience of one, and that one being Vince. So and he has final say on everything. So it's no surprise if that is the case that not much changed.
Agreed. Vince tends to, it's Vince's way or the highway.
Yeah. Anyway, Miz TV guests Bayley and Sasha Banks. Miz describes changing to stay relevant as a bad thing, despite it being a staple of any long wrestling career. Bayley,
I missed the fact that he's been wearing the jean shorts and that stupid black Mohican for years. Oh wait, he changed it to stay relevant, as well as the times he's changed his hair.
Yeah, Bayley cuts an honestly kind of generic heel promo.
It was kind of, honestly, considering she's been face for a majority of her career.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was kind of justified. It did make sense from a heel perspective. You know, the whole makes sense in the wrestling bubble.
Yep.
That she lost a title in a humiliating fashion, and she's done everything she can to try and make everyone else feel good. But when she needed people, there was no one there for her.
Yeah.
Like the realization that she can do all she wants, but no one's going to come to her aid. Because that's really been her thing since NXT. Really, is she had all these friends, and then all of her friends basically turned on her and abandoned her as soon as they got main roster call-ups. That was kind of like the whole pushing point with her and Sasha Banks before Sasha left, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing for Sasha was that, you've had a chance, but, Becky and Charlotte, they've beat you and left. I've beaten you and I'm about to leave, so, that's just how it is.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, he won the women's title, which, was the whole good babyface win.
Yeah.
But this one, I'm interested to see how they handle it, because I like that Sasha and Bayley are still together.
Right.
Well, there's not enough women groups together, to be honest.
No, yeah, I see what you mean. Sorry, it just took me a little while to process what you said.
Well, it's just, if you think about it, you've got the Iconics, but they're a joke tag team at this point.
They
as
haven't
horrible
been
as that is.
either.
Yeah. And of course, you've got the Kabuki Warriors, who we've already made it clear how we feel about them. Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose literally.
I like them, they're good, but it's the name that I can't stand.
Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville just exist. I mean, don't get me wrong. I respect the whole thing of what they're trying to do, but but what they want is a bit more in your face. Apparently, Sonya Deville wants all the women's division storylines to be based around sexuality.
Right. No.
Basically, because she's came out as a lesbian, she thinks all storylines need to revolve around lesbian relationships for some reason.
Not all storylines have them, sure, but don't homogenize the product. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have these storylines, by all means, but Are you sure she said all? Because that doesn't seem like something someone would say.
Well, I'll have to look back into it, but she's dead specifically say that she wanted major storylines to revolve around sexuality, lesbian sexuality, just because she's come out.
No, I can respect that. Yeah.
I don't know if pushing it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mind a lesbian storyline as long as it's done tastefully. But this is WWE, so
You're probably going to
you know
get
how.
early Mickey James at best.
Yeah, but if you're trying to push it just for its own sake, it will fucking fail because people will see straight through it and see it as,
Yeah.
yeah, you're just trying to force. If it's not a natural storyline, yeah, it's just if it's forced, they will sense it. It, just like the whole Roman Reigns thing, which again wasn't Roman's fault. Just to reiterate, wasn't Roman's fault.
Yeah. Well,
Is it Roman become a lot more likable when he's not being forced into the main event thing and not trying to justify his place there? When he's just being himself and smashing Baron Corbin through a wall.
yes, he is much more over and likable in that capacity. Yeah.
He's a mid-carder for life, and that's good enough.
Well, as for the sexuality storylines, like I think you can definitely have them. I just don't trust WWE to do them.
I think that's the big thing here is that WWE can't be trusted with sexuality. I mean, look what they did with homosexuality.
Well,
With men.
we spent about the early 5 or 6 minutes of this podcast going on about Goldust, so.
Yeah, but there are worse things like Billy and Chuck.
Oh God.
Yeah. Rico, adorable Adrian Adonis.
Yeah.
And of course, Heidenreich's rape of Michael Cole.
Oh God. I remember that.
I'm so glad that Vince hasn't decided to try and jump into the furry community.
Then the main event happens, and Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns beat Baron Corbin and Shinsuke. Daniel Bryan gets the win, and all is good. That's the WWE shows for the week. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
I have nothing to say about Raw or SmackDown this week, to be honest. It was just kind of like they've given up, if I'm being brutally honest.
Well, that or they're treading water because they have to set up for Crown Jewel while also setting up for...
Which they're going to ignore anyway. Oh, we forgot one thing, Ollie. You forgot one thing. You jackass. You forgot one thing.
What did I forget?
The match to determine the number one contender for Bayley's title.
Oh yeah, the 6-pack challenge. How did I forget that? I must have forgotten to write it down. I saw it, but I don't actually... I wasn't paying attention. Who won?
Well, Nikki won.
Oh yeah, Nikki Cross won it.
Nikki Cross won, and he's the number one contender for Bayley's title.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, that's cool. And they gave her mic time, which, given her accent, surprises me.
I'll say this, just to get this off my chest. Me and Liz, we love Nikki Cross.
Yeah, no, I can see why you would. I absolutely loved when she was one half of the tag team champions, and she just looked so happy to be there with that belt.
Yeah, but Liz's family, well, her sister hates Nikki Cross.
Why?
Because apparently she's a terrible representation of Scottish people.
How so?
I don't know. It's the whole crazy thing. I love it. The only way it'd be funnier is if she was desperately protecting, a statue of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man with a pair of scissors from random people.
Right. Okay, so AEW Dynamite. The show starts on a tag team match for the first round of the tag team title tournament. SCU come out, but the Lucha Brothers attack them. And the match goes on. SCU versus Best Friends, and someone's had to switch out. Scorpio Sky has had to wrestle despite not being dressed for it. In fact, he loses a tennis shoe at one point, and then he throws the other one into a crowd, and they throw it back. And then there's a chant of "He's got no shoes." Like, the crowd is super into this match. Like, having a good crowd can really up the energy.
It really can, and that's the joy of AEW in general, is that the fans genuinely feel like they want to be there. It doesn't feel like there's plants.
Or if they are, they're bloody good ones.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, SCU win. I really enjoyed the match. It was very good. Now, AEW has started doing that really irritating thing, at least on the US broadcast, which is the one I watched, where the wrestling show shrinks down and it's screen in a screen thing, and it plays adverts over. It played adverts over the entrance of Alex Reynolds and John Silver, so one assumes that that was the jobber entrance. Or what would be. And of course it is, because they're facing Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle.
Chris Jericho's little group.
Yep. Santana and Ortiz win emphatically. I mean, it doesn't last long at all. Yeah. And then Jericho appears on Titantron and talks them up, challenging the Young Bucks at Full Gear on their behalf. So it looks like we've got Santana and Ortiz versus the Young Bucks at the Full Gear event. That'll be cool. And then there's a video package for Cody, hyping up his title match against Chris Jericho, also at Full Gear. Although they're getting a bit ahead of themselves, because Jericho also has a title defense tonight. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Riho for the AEW Women's World title. I remember. Yeah, I remember it being a pretty fast-paced match. Yep.
Also, Rio seems to have some friendship or relationship with Kenny Omega, I've noticed.
Yeah. Winner and still AEW Women's World Champion, Riho.
Nice.
First round tag time. Did you watch AEW this week?
I unfortunately didn't get to watch it this week.
Oh, well, you missed something, and I would get on the ITV app and watch it when you get the chance. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. First round tag tournament match. Jurassic Express versus the Lucha Brothers. So Jungle Boy and I forget his name, but the really short one. The small guy. Like, they look like they could be like. Now, I like Jungle Boy, the big guy. I'm
more of a fan of Luchasaurus myself.
Yeah. Who is the smaller one? I can't remember his name.
I don't know.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I think I do.
Yeah. I think he did that floss dance in the ring at All Out. You know that guy?
God, yeah. The Fortnite dance thing.
Yeah. Anyway, he got a good showing. He pulled off some impressive moves. Jungle Boy was the star of the match for that team, though. Anyway, the Lucha Brothers win. And then there is a tag match. Pac and John Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. At one point, Pac stops Moxley from murdering Omega with a barbed wire bat and gets laid out for it. He didn't want to get disqualified. And then after Moxley drops him with the DDT and leaves, he's ganged up on by the opposing team, and Hangman Page gets the pin. The winners are Adam Page and Kenny Omega.
Wonderful.
And now, finally, we have our main event. Darby Allin versus Chris Jericho in a Philadelphia street fight for the AEW World Championship. I don't fully know the rules of the Philadelphia street fight, but it's a no DQ match where rope breaks still count.
Huh.
That seems to be what I could gather.
That's a lot of rules for Philadelphia.
Yeah. At one point, Jericho duct tapes Darby Allin's hands behind his back. And
Of course.
yeah, he still puts up a pretty good fight and comes within a hair's breadth of winning the title, despite having both of his hands duct taped behind his back.
I did see him last week, the whole Darby Allin coming down on the skateboard.
Yeah.
I did like that spot.
I mean, what kind of bragging rights would that have been? Like, you beat Chris Jericho for the title with both your hands tied behind your back.
Oh.
But eventually, he still gives up a good fight, and just as it looks like he's about to go up for a moonsault to maybe win, Jake Hagar interferes and clocks him in the face, knocking him out. Walls of Jericho, submission winner, and still AEW World Champion Chris Jericho, followed up with a little bit of the bubbly.
Oh yeah, you need a little bit of the bubbly.
Yeah, winner and still Le Champion of AEW. Ah, Kyle's here. He says Fight TV is the best way to watch it. Worth £3 per week. Oh yeah, he says Kenny trained Riho. Sorry, dude. I was looking at my notes. I never noticed your comments. Yeah. So, I gotta say though, that match with Darby Allin was pretty brutal once he had his arms tied behind his back, because he had nothing to protect him for. Like, every time he even threw a drop kick and landed on his back on top of his arms, I winced a bit, because that's gotta hurt like hell. And well, Jericho made him look really good though. He looked like $1 million in that match.
Well, AEW has been putting on great matches, but the thing is, they're not even focusing on, trying to go to war with WWE. They're just trying to put on a good show.
Yeah. I said before, AEW has started putting their win-loss record under their nameplate when they come out. And I really like that that touch. It's a good... I will find the word eventually. It's a really nice touch for immersion. Like, I mean, obviously, this isn't any less scripted than WWE, but it helps it feel like it isn't,
It feels more legit, to be perfectly frank. It feels like an actual wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
And they're proud of it being about the wrestling rather than it just being, basically, one of the things that the Attitude Era really gave us a problem with was Vince Russo's love of trash TV.
Yeah.
I know you weren't. Well, I know you probably wouldn't have been around for the shows that were around at the time, like Jerry Springer and stuff like that, but he was obsessed with that.
I know Jerry Springer.
I know, but it's been so long.
How old do you think I am? No.
You really want me to be honest?
No, don't answer that.
I still think you have your milk teeth.
Yeah, Kyle says Kenny Omega trained Riho. That would explain their friendship.
Yeah.
Was Riho the 9-year-old girl that he like, I don't know if this is known. I asked you this a few weeks ago, but you once showed me a video of a 9-year-old girl wrestling Kenny Omega.
Ah, yes.
Was that
yes.
Riho? Is that known?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of, because last I heard of the little girl, she basically was wrestling since she was in, like, 4th grade or something. She was actually fully trained, and she retired when she was 13 to go have a normal life.
Yeah.
Which is...
I mean, to be able to do anything enough that you retire at 13 is an achievement.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, Japan is great in a lot of ways, isn't it? In that people can do that.
Japan is amazing with a lot of the stuff it does. I love the fact that if Yakuza has basically made me appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you really think that, with one of the most successful animes to come out of there, My Hero Academia, which is currently destroying superhero comics in general in the West, by the way.
Right. We're getting a bit off track
It's
at the
so
moment, but
it's so West is actually based more on Western concepts.
yeah. I mean,
because the guy who likes it who made it is obsessed with like Western comics. But the wrestling in general, I think the fact that the wrestling in general has stayed at a consistent pace and didn't suffer the Moolah thing for the women's division has helped keep the women's division alive because, well, Moolah's name is such poison that even Snickers had to jump in on it and stop it.
yeah, the Moolah trophy thing on the
Well, it's the fact that her victims came forward and it was basically WWE liked to paint that Moolah was this amazing pioneer when in reality she really wasn't. She only knew about 3 moves legitimately, damaged the industry and put the women's division back 40 years and made it so that no one could replace her after she'd retired.
yeah. Oh, Kyle has commented. He says, Mon Kyle has commented. He says, I don't think it was Riho, that little girl, but the commentators did say she's been wrestling since she was 9. Yeah, yeah, that's what made me think that maybe it was her. Oh god, Japan is awesome. Imagine being able to become a wrestler at 9 years old. I mean, I could have been an almost 2-decade veteran by now.
I don't know. I mean, considering if watching Zach Gowen and Gregory Irons has taught me anything, it's that nothing is really stopping you. I mean, Gregory Irons is the only wrestler at the moment with cerebral palsy.
Who's Gregory Irons? Is he
He's a wrestler who wrestles on the indies, oddly enough, with Zach Gowen, and they're called the Handicapped Heroes, but he's only got cerebral palsy in his arm, I think.
Right.
But Brian Zane has said that he's worked with people who are blind, crippled. He's worked with wrestlers with all manner of things you'd think would stop them from being professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
Remember, there was that guy in AEW's Battle Royal with no legs.
Yeah, I remember. Are you saying that I should try and be a professional wrestler?
I'm not saying you shouldn't be a professional wrestler.
Right, you heard it here first on Sam's ironclad endorsement. I'm going to try and be a wrestler.
Well, you're already a former 24/7 champion.
Yeah. For those of you that have me on Facebook, I went to a convention and someone was cosplaying. Name escapes me. Drake Maverick, and he had the 24/7 title, and he let me roll him up and pin him for the sake of a picture and win the title.
Did he pin you back to get it back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
as long as we're keeping the illusion.
Yeah. So technically, in some sort of context, I am a former 24/7 champion.
Yeah, why not?
Kyle says, "Do it, do it, do it." Yeah. There are wrestling places in Leicester. I should look into that. Because I can, I mean, the gout would be a problem should it flare up again. But
I mean, if I got into it, I'd probably go back. I honestly want to bring the concept of the manager back.
Right. So,
because it's died off over the years, and I want to bring back the old Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, Paul Bearer, James Mitchell.
Yeah.
I want to bring back the manager who, has like the entire stable.
Yeah, the Mr. Foodie. Oh, fuck. I've just got flour in my face.
Fuji.
Mr. Fuji!
Mr. Fuji.
Do you remember the dirt sheet?
God. I do. I remember every single time they threw flour in someone's face.
And said, Mr. Fuji. Oh. They tried to have a seance with Paul Bearer, and it just resulted in a load of masturbation euphemisms regarding Kane.
Oh, I wish we'd circumcised his head.
Well, as a child, I would get him pets.
I got a monkey hoping I'd call it. I bought him a dolphin, but all he did was flog it. I bought him a monkey, and all he did was spank it incessantly. So in the end, I took him to a bishop.
And all he did was beat him! He beat that bishop!
Till he threw up. Oh, yes! I still think it's weird that in Vince Russo's weird Christian wrestling thing, he had James Mitchell playing the devil in the first one, which worked aptly well, and Brian Zane admits that he inadvertently copied it for his Heroes of Wrestling thing with Adam Blampied.
Yeah.
But then the next time they couldn't get James Mitchell for some reason, so they got Paul Bearer to be the devil. And it's just weird for Paul Bearer to do that voice while trying to be taken seriously as the devil. Yep, people endorse me, not by your words, but by your actions. I mean, hell, James Mitchell did it better when he scared the crap out of Jeff Jarrett by going, "When you sign a deal with me, it's signed in blood." I remember you were afraid of James Mitchell for so long.
Oh, I was terrified of the man. I could not see him.
And now he's bald, and now he's basically... Last time I saw him, he was working for the actual devil of professional wrestling, which is...
He looked a bit like a porn star Dracula.
He looks like Ming the Merciless.
He does.
He looks like a much more evil Ming the Merciless. Especially now that
porn
he's
star
bald.
Dracula was his TNA days with the red suit and the long sort of skullet hair.
And now he's bald and still has the same beard and those eyebrows.
Did you say my name?
We very much admire your work, Mr. Mitchell, if you happen to be listening to this. I mean everything I say in an affectionate manner.
And seriously, if you are listening, I doubt you are, but Mr. Mitchell, I love watching you in TNA, in Impact. I love the stuff you've done with Jessica Havoc and Sue Young and Rosemary. I love your voice. You are the perfect evil manager. Oh, if only we could have had that Kane with Paul Bearer versus Abyss with James Mitchell match.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else?
Not that I could think of.
Right, we are just coming up to the hour mark, so that was well timed. Okay. Right. So, I've got everyone's name on the thing now. Anyway, oh. Kyle says the dirt sheets. That's what I got when I used to watch bra and panties matches on Smackdown versus Raw. My only access to somewhat erotic content.
We all had to start somewhere.
Yeah. Smackdown versus Raw. Oh.
6 was the best one for me.
Yeah, that was the first one for me, so I'll always be nostalgic for it.
It's the William Regal vile little slack line.
Yeah. I would play through the entire storyline to hear William Regal call Trish Stratus a vile little slag.
He thought William Regal's voice was hilarious.
Yeah. Those miserable toe rags edging Christian. As a teen. Yeah.
That's Scrabber Trish Stratus.
Now you listen to me, you vile little slag. Young Master Eugene is a good boy. Oh God, Eugene, that's uncomfortable.
Actually, the thing is, people actually do the whole Eugene was a terrible idea by WWE. That was actually his idea.
Yeah, I know. And
The thing was, he was at OVW for so long, and the thing is that everyone else was being promoted above him, and he got so sick of it that he met with Vince McMahon personally and suggested the idea of a wrestling savant.
yeah,
Because the idea was not for him to be mentally disabled or whatever. It was meant to be that he was like a bushwhacker-esque thing that looked like he could a guy who couldn't actually tie his shoes or would be incompetent, but when he could get in the ring, he could actually go. That was meant to be the entire joke, was that he'd be a bumbling idiot that couldn't tie his shoes, would trip over and would stumble in speech, but when he wrestled, he would be good, which was the joke when William Regal tried to train him and he kept falling over the ring ropes and stuff, but when they actually got in the ring, he out-wrestled Regal.
yeah. I loved Eugene though. I did at the time, but in hindsight,
He's very uncomfortable.
yeah,
It was worse. The thing that ruined it for me was not only when they led us to believe he was mentally disabled and then had him pinned to a chair and scalped him effectively,
yeah,
and also when he screamed, "Stop laughing at me, I'm special."
yeah.
Ooh, that's some very uncomfortable stuff. Ooh. Hindsight being 2020, that was not a good run for Eugene. But the fact he got what he got out of it,
Yeah.
he got quite a bit out of the wrestling savant gimmick. Yeah, I can't fault the fact that he got a silly gimmick to last as long as it did.
I wonder if he's
Again,
doing anything right now. Nick
don't know.
Dinsmore, I mean.
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up.
I will recommend, again, I always recommend Wrestling with Regret because he does some very good videos.
Yeah.
I also recommend, I know you're going to say something when I say the name, but it's not what you think. The Social Injustice Warrior. He mainly does wrestling videos, but he actually does like the history of certain events and certain runs. He also introduced me to the fake the wrestlers pretend to be other wrestlers, like the guy who impersonated Ric Flair, the Nature Boy Paul Lee. Also, Jay Batista, the Bargain Bin Beast. The fake Shield called Riot Control. Big Slam Vader.
Oh, he's running his own shows. Dinsmore
Nice.
began
Oh,
running his own shows in Sioux Falls, South Dakota under the banner of Midwest All Pro Wrestling. The first live event was held on November 7th, 2015. On 10th of January 2015, he returned to wrestling with the British promotion International Pro Wrestling, defeating Grado in his first match for the promotion.
Wow. Oh, and another fake wrestler I really have to mention, the N-word taker.
Oh no.
Complete with his manager, Cracker Bearer.
Right.
In a match against Black Superman that was called by Spanish Scarlet Witch and White Shaft.
That reminds me just of Chet Lemon and Black Snow in TNA. Which, if you didn't watch it, were the names that Kevin Nash and Booker T gave themselves respectively when they were on the announce desk. Booker T referred to himself as Black Snow.
Oh God, yeah. It's amazing the resemblance that Booker T has to Black Snow.
Yeah. Kevin Nash was just Chet Lemon.
Why not?
Yeah.
Which is better than Keith Lemon.
I was more of a Bo Selector fan.
I was too. He's basically become the very thing he was mocking.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've not seen Bo Selector since I was an early teen. So if I
It doesn't hold up really like you'd think it would. I mean, some of it's funny if you knew what it was, and don't get me wrong, Craig, it's funny because of the shit they're doing, not because of what it's taking the piss out of. If you really watch it, if you go back to watching it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting off track. I think it's about time we wrapped up this podcast.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, so you know where you can find me at Murasaki's Pit, where this Tuesday, hopefully I will be playing 2K20,
Yeah.
giving that a go through the story mode.
If you also want to watch me fail at video games, I'm on twitch.tv/Ollie Johnson, all one word.
If you want to know where we get most of our info for wrestling when we talk about some of these things, I recommend the channels of Cultaholic.
Yeah, definitely.
I recommend Cultaholic, Wrestling with Regret with Brian Zane, and The Social Injustice Warrior
Yeah. I mean,
for all your wrestling needs. Where recently they've even done a video showing Scott Hall wrestled in ECW in the originals,
yeah.
even though it's only 3 matches. Well,
Right, okay then. We'll see you next time.
bye.
Bye. And